Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me today here at Re-Ritten Vintage Homestead. And it's a beautiful day here in the Midwest. And I promise you guys, I'm getting back to homesteading videos really quick. But I thought today would be a great day to sit here and let you listen to the walnuts falling off of my tree that I'm going to harvest later on today and talk about the nuts in Washington. Won't you join me? Okay, so I thought we would start with the United States Constitution. And Article 4, Section 4, Paragraph 1 states that the United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion. Now, once we had won the Revolutionary War, we signed into a contract called the Treaty of Paris. And basically that said that we had won the war and we were now an independent nation from Britain. And there were a lot of concessions that we gave to other countries such as Spain and France and Britain. But we did gain our independence. So the problem is we had given a lot of power to each of our own states because we were so afraid of what we had just come from, which was a ruler, a king. And so we gave our government less strength, less power over us as citizens. Each state, based on the value of their land, set their own taxes, and that was put into a treasury for the government to pay for things. The problem is I know me, I'd say, hey, you know what? I live in this, even though I'm in this big honking state and my ground is really fertile and it's really valuable, it's really not. So I'm not going to pay, I'm not going to pay as much as Maine over here. They're right by the water. They have a lot of shipping resources. So you can see how that got to be a problem. Also, too, each state had their own militia that, some of them didn't have very many members. Some of them had quite a few. So you always had that fear of invasion. You didn't have a central government that could enforce any rules. So that was, at first our founding fathers had thought about, let's just tweak some things in this. But as time went on, they decided to totally reconstruct it. And that's how we came up with our United States Constitution. It gave the federal government more power, which was a good thing as far as our defense, keeping us safe. And they specifically wrote that in the Constitution. Okay. So let's talk about our new Secretary of Homeland Defense, and his name is Alejandro Mayorkas. He is the first immigrant that's ever served in that role, and he, more than anyone, should know the proper procedures for coming into this country legally. Okay, so these are his own words. He testified before the House and the Senate a week ago. He also gave a press conference last week. So these are his numbers. I wrote them down as he was speaking. 30,000 Haitian immigrants were at the Del Rio border in Texas on September 9th of 2021. 30,000. Of the 30,000, because he'd been pressed on this and pressed on this and pressed on this, and it took forever to get numbers, but this is what they came up with. 2,000 were sent back to Haiti under Title 42. Now, what Title 42 is, it's a law that says if an immigrant or someone wishing to seek asylum in our country comes in and they have the potential of spreading a communicable disease, we can send them back. So they're not healthy. Now, according to our Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, we sent 2,000 of the 30,000 back because of that. Okay? 12,400 of those 30,000 were sent to immigration judges. So immigration judges are all over the United States. So these immigrants were bused, flown all over. We really don't know exactly where they all are, but they're here. Okay. Of the 30,000, according to the secretary, 8,000 left voluntarily. So once they got here, they're like, it's not worth it. We're just going to go back. That's what he says. 5,000 are in the process of trying to come in here legally with the Department of Homeland Security. And 2,600 are in alternatives to detention centers. So they're not being held. So where are they? Okay. Then yesterday, he was interviewed by Chris Wallace, and Chris Wallace was pressing him on the numbers, and he's like, so how many are actually here in this country and get to stay? Well, during that interview, he gave the number of 12,000 to 17,000 have been released into our population, and it's going to go higher, which makes total sense because if you go through these numbers, there's about 20,000 unaccounted for. So this would make total sense. So there probably more than likely we're going to end up with this round 20,000 people here illegally in our country. Jen Psaki was asked during one of her press conferences, were those people immunized? No. Were those people tested for COVID? No. Not unless they wanted to be or agreed to be, were they tested. Now, you also need to remember that Haiti has had a lot happen to its citizens. It's had earthquakes, it's had floods, it's had weather events, it's had poverty. And because of these things, they have a lot of communicable diseases. They have cholera. They have tuberculosis that's not treatable with immunizations. And, folks, they just came right across the border. So did our Department of Homeland Security protect us from invasion? I would say they failed us greatly. Now, this is on top of the illegal immigrants we have coming in daily from Mexico. Okay? They're not tested for COVID. They're not forced to have immunizations either. And they're not being stopped. Basically, we just have open borders. So our president... You guys, can I take that back? The President of the United States and our Department of Homeland Security and our Department of Defense, in my opinion, are not keeping their number one goal in their office, which is to keep us safe from invasion. We're being invaded daily. I am really excited that my beautiful walnut tree here is producing like you wouldn't have it. So we're going to be working on some walnuts this evening. And the boys are helping gather. Excuse me, boys. Excuse me. I wanted to show everyone that these have just fallen off the tree. And you see how they're mostly green? They do have some brown. Those are what you're looking for. It's okay if they're brown. Mostly green. What you don't want are the ones that are completely black, and that would be like this one. They're past the point of being any good to eat. Okay, and they may also have some bug infestation, so we're going to stay away from those, and we're going to try to pick these. And I'm going to go back up to the tree here to see if I can find some that are Yeah, see? Up in the tree you can see that before they fall, they're green with the brown spots. So they're good to eat. Those are going to be falling anytime. All you have to do is just kind of jangle the branch and they'll fall on your head. But stay away from the black ones. And then when Pickles gets home from school, we're going to show you what to do with them. All right, let's keep going. When you guys were children in school, did you ever play the telephone game? I did. And what that was, we would line up and our teacher would tell us something to say. Like, she would whisper it in our ear and say, the sky is blue. Then that person would whisper in the next person's ear, the sky is blue. Well, you have trouble interpreting what's being said down the line as it goes on. So by the time you're done, it may be hand me the glue. And I feel like that's what happened to a very undeserving, patriotic, hardworking, underpaid group of American citizens who are here legally doing their jobs last week. And what I mean by that is a photo was taken. Now, this photo was taken by Paul Rachi. He works for Associated Press and, at different places taking pictures of things. And he took a picture of some Border Patrol agents on horses. Okay, so one of these pictures, a lot of people construed to look like the Border Patrol agent was whipping people as they were coming across the Rio Grande. What also made this narrative grow and grow was our politicians were likening this to slavery and depictions of slavery and what happened in the 60s to those who were fighting for their rights during the civil rights movement. So what's interesting, sorry you guys, I had an itch. What's interesting is that the photographer himself said, I've never seen them whip anybody. He told that to KTSM 9 News. He said, I saw them swinging their reins, but it can be misconstrued when you're looking at the picture. But they never hit anybody. They were snapping their reins. After further investigation, we learned that these Border Patrol agents use what's called a split rein. So it's 2 long horse reins. Now what they do is as they're maneuvering around people, they'll snap those reins close to the horse to get him to change direction or focus. You can find all of this online. And so I went to probably 5 different websites for these Border Patrol agents, and I read about their training. I read about the horses' training. I read about their mission. Some of their comments about how they feel they were basically the government that they serve that pays their salary doesn't stand behind them, and their feelings about that. So I believe that we started with a picture just like the telephone game that one person looked at and said, oh, yeah, they're chasing him back. They're chasing him back. They're not supposed to be here. They're doing their job. Okay? That went to another person who had a whole different mindset as to what was actually being depicted. What? They're whipping these people from Haiti. They're whipping them with those reins. Who then told it to another person. What? That looks like slavery. That's worse than slavery. Who went to another person. What? That's what we went through during the civil rights movement. These people need to be removed. But it wasn't the original picture. it changed and changed and changed, and the narrative changed to the view of whatever anyone wanted. Joe Biden said, "It was horrible what you saw. To see people treated like that, they did, with horses nearly running over people and being strapped. It's outrageous, and I promise you, those people will pay." Well, how would you feel if you were doing your job? You didn't strap anybody. You didn't run over anybody with your horse. It was all a false narrative. And the chief, your boss, number one, says you're going to pay. Even if you did nothing wrong, you're going to pay. So much for our freedoms, right? Okay, let's keep going. Jen Psaki said, who is the secretary of the press secretary, on November 24th, "We have taken very specific actions as it relates to the horrific photos that we were not going to stand for in this administration. The agents have been put on administrative leave pending an investigation." Well, we want to thank you, Jen, that there's going to be an investigation. The problem is your boss has already said these people are going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So, yeah, an opinion's already been made by your boss. So, but we appreciate the investigation and hope for these officers' sake that it turns out well in their favor. One of the Border Patrol agents said, anonymously, "With basic knowledge and 2 brain cells, anyone knows those agents use split reins. They do use them as a whip, but they use them for their horses. This helps get a quicker response from the horse to move out when needed, especially when the horse may be hesitant with groups of people or in unfamiliar situations. So it's just like a dog with a shock collar. It's to get your attention fast. It's to get you to move a different way. For your own safety, for the person that you're with, for their safety, and for others' safety." Now, you guys, these Border Patrol agents don't just hop on a horse one day and decide to do this job. They're very experienced horsemen and women. They have grown up around horses. They have extensive training. And they're a very elite group. Also, it's interesting to note that over 50% of them have come here as migrants. So I'm going to try to do this one-handed, guys. When you work with your nuts, you should really have gloves on so that you don't get the black all over your fingers. So what you do is you take your hammer and you hit it until it cracks open. You peel your hull away. There's your nut. Now let me show you another trick. Have a bucket of water handy and put your nut in there. If it floats to the top, it's not any good. We got a good one. So what I'm going to do next, after I test all my nuts here to make sure they're good and they're going to taste the way I want them to, I'm going to take them in and I'm going to scrub the rest of the hull off. Then I'm going to lay them out on a cookie sheet and let them dry for about 2 weeks, and then they'll be ready to eat. This story, this commentary with these Border Patrol agents needed to be scrutinized a little more. Let's learn about them. Let's learn about their history. Let's learn about what their purpose is. Let's learn about what their goals are and who they are as people before we make a snap judgment based on a picture. Okay, so that's what I did. I wrote a paper. Okay, what I found out was that Horses have been used to patrol our southern and Canadian borders since 1904 due to their ability to adapt to difficult terrain. Also, I didn't know this, horses can see apparently 2 miles ahead of them in the dark. So they can alert their riders to any danger ahead. Now, in 1904, when we first started patrolling the borders, that was due to Chinese coming across the border who wanted to work for the railroads that were being built during that time, and they were coming here illegally. And the railroads were hiring them for cheap labor, if they paid them at all, just to let them into the country. So they weren't being discouraged from not coming across, but it was the job of some of the Border Patrol to discourage that. We didn't have a governmental system. This was mostly the states. The towns along those borders were enforcing their own rules. Okay? The United States Border Patrol was established by Congress in 1924 to enforce immigration laws. And their goals were to apprehend terrorists and illegal weapons. You know, something later on that would be interesting to get into, you guys. Did you guys just hear that nut fall from the tree? Yes, they're everywhere. Would be to talk about how our government, and this started during George Bush's administration, but proceeded to carry on during the Obama administration, actually put guns and weapons into circulation, hoping that we could trace them to terrorists and drug cartels, and ended up, we've been able to trace very few. We'll talk about that later. And they want to take your guns away that they put into our government to circulate. Did anybody hear another nut drop? I don't know. Sounds nutty to me. Okay, so what are some of their other goals? They're supposed to deter illegal entries. So basically those officers that you see with those double reins were doing their jobs, right? They were keeping people, they were deterring them from coming in illegally. They are supposed to detect and apprehend smugglers of humans and drugs. And they are also supposed to reduce crime that occurs in the border towns. How would you feel if you own property in one of those border towns and you never knew who was going to be in your backyard? I wanted to show you guys that I did find one that floated to the top. See? So that one's not going to taste the way that we want it to. It's not quite ready yet. So it's going in the trash. Or you know what? I think I'll just throw it out for the animals and see if they would like it. But it's not going to give me the taste that I want. So it's not staying at my house. In 1959, horses were phased out as they were deemed unnecessary because they started using motorcycles and cars and trucks. What's interesting, though, is in 1979, people started becoming more environmentally conscious, and they're like, you're tearing up my farm, you know, with your vehicles. You're hurting the environment. You're hurting ecosystems with these vehicles all over the place. So they went back to horses that did less damage than gasoline-induced vehicles. So horses were better for the environment. So they went back to horses in 1979. Now, so we see the very admirable goals of our Border Patrol in the South and in the Canadian border area. Today, the Bureau of Land Management works in conjunction with prison systems in the Southwest to have wild horses come from inmate programs. So when Spaniards came here to the United States, they came with these massive, massive beasts that petrified Native Americans, and they were horses. And some of these horses got away, Some of these horses mated, they've mated, and now there are thousands of wild horses in the Southwest and mostly Mustangs. So, the Bureau of Land Management started saying something they could do with these animals would be to take them to prisons there in the Southwest, and the inmates would be in charge of their care and their training, their domestication. They're not considered, I can't think of the word. They're more considered feral. So, which means they're just like feral cats. They run wild, so they're not anything that's domesticated by people at the time, but they can be taught this. So what a wonderful program where you take inmates. And it's been proven with dog programs, dogs that have been considered unhomeable, because of their bad behaviors. They take into the prison systems, and these inmates work with them, train them, love them, take care of their everyday care, and these dogs get homed out afterwards. So you have rewards for the inmates in that they learn dedication, they learn trust, they learn responsibility, they learn caring for another thing. They learn that they can actually make a difference in this world, which, really, let's get down to it. A lot of people that do bad things have very, very low self-worth and just think that's their lot in life. Well, this can encourage them to make a difference in the world and do good things. It also is good for these horses that are brought in, that are wild, these wild Mustangs. Horses can live anywhere from 25 to, I think 35 is kind of high, and I think the oldest living horse was close to 40. But if they're out in the wild, just like dogs and cats, their life expectancy is shorter because of all kinds of, now horses wouldn't be so much preyed upon by other animals in the Southwest, but they could get sick, they could get hurt, they could have, not the proper nutrition, not the proper veterinary care, and their life expectancy is shorter. Also, too, for all of those that are interested in environmental issues, if you continue to let the horses mate and populate, then you're back to the problem of destroying ecosystems because of overgrazing and tearing up the terrain of the land. So they try to keep them just like they do with deer and other animals at a manageable number. So instead of putting these horses down, they take them several times a year and take them to these inmates and these training programs who train them for these Border Patrol agents. Then they're assigned to an agent, just like when you see our police departments with their canines. They're given one agent, and they develop a bond with that person and trust, and they do everything they can to keep that person safe. Horses are herd animals, so they like to have an alpha. And so these, just like dogs do. And so the Border Patrol agent becomes the alpha. And so they listen when they snap those reins. And that's what turns their attention or distracts them from something else that they may be scared of or think might be harmful. So these programs not only increase the quality of life for inmates, but they increase the quality of life for the horses as well. I really encourage you guys to, before you make snap decisions on things, that you do research. Take the time to find out about a program. Take the time to find out, now what did we find out from these Border Patrol agents? We found out that over half of them came here through the legal process of immigration and decided to serve their country, and went through extensive training and are trying to do their job. We learned these horses are redeemable animals that were out in the wild, that we helped extend their life, and their help keeping our Border Patrol agents safe. So we learned what a wonderful program this really is. And now it's kind of up in arms. We don't know if it's going to be dismantled altogether just because of one picture narrative, or if these agents will actually get a fair shake during this investigation. And, hopefully they'll bring in the photographer that took the picture who said they didn't whip anybody. I was just taking pictures. They were snapping their reins. You guys, something else that happens when you make snap, quick decisions without investigation is these people now have their livelihoods on the line. Some of them have been with the Border Patrol for 20, 25, 30 years. Pensions, retirements, families that depend on them. And they could lose it all because of a narrative that is false. So I think it's time that, like I said in my last video, it's time for lions, not for sheeple. And when you see BS, it's time to call it out and say, we will not put up with this any longer. Do your job as the Constitution states, that you will protect us from invasion. And they're saying that there are an additional 20,000. They're calling them Haitians, but they're not really, they're from Haiti, yes, but they're actually living in Chile and Argentina and Africa. And they've been there for years, but they've been given this narrative that now's the time to come to America if you want free health care, free education, free housing, free food, free everything. That's why they're coming here. So I'd love to know your opinion on this, you guys, and I hope you'll stand with me and support these agents. You can write letters to your local representative. You can actually get on the websites for the different Border Patrol horsing patrols. You can make a donation, which I have done, to the Del Rio office. Show them your support, that what they're doing is really admirable. Coming up, we're going to be doing some more fun videos on fall in the homestead and what I've been working on. I think it would be good to actually talk about what is homesteading, who can do it, what you need to have to get started. Because I really feel, like I said before, I'm not a doomsday prepper. But I do think that now is the time. Now's the time to draw the line, guys, and take care of your own and be prepared. And so I want to learn together with you how to take care of ourselves. So I'm going to have videos coming up where we learn how to start a fire and cook outside. And what if we're in a situation where we have no power? How are we going to generate power? What can we do if we don't have a generator? Those types of things. Food storage, water storage, health, taking care of your health, storing things for your health, storing things for your animals. You know, it's time to really get into this. They're already talking about food shortages, you guys. I mean, you know, when Kamala talks and, you know, has that goofy laugh, you really need to listen because she spills the beans. She's not supposed to spill the beans, but she usually spills the beans and gives us a heads up as to what's coming, you know. And when she told us a couple months ago that if we wanted to order Christmas presents, we better order them, everybody was going, oh my gosh, with everything going on in Afghanistan, she's talking about Christmas presents. Well, see, she spilled the beans. Production is really, really slow. And trying to get goods and services is going to even get worse. And We'll talk about that too.
And I also have an abundance here of hickory nuts in my yard. They have the green hull that you can, once they fall off the tree, you can pretty well pick the hull off with your fingers. And there's the shell. You just crack it open and they're delicious.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me again here today at Re-Written Vintage Homestead. I haven't seen you in about a week or so, and I thought it would be a beautiful day to sit outside and kill my dogs.
Oh, now that was a smart move. That was a smart move, Marshall. Now what are you going to do?
I hope you guys have a great week. Join me, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Stand up for what's right. Don't ever be quiet. Give your opinion. Sorry, Dad. I love you, but you made me, okay? And I hope you'll come back and join me again.